By the way, I am just recording all of these one after the other. I have not worn this shirt for like 5 consecutive days. Although I will say having a limited wardrobe takes off so much stress, and I like it when I pack like a few things for a trip. Speaking of limitations, this concept is related to that which I talked about of like the cross as humility, as also definition or limitation, and sort of accepting and fully pouring oneself into one's identity, and then finding through narrowness, pain, and death life and fullness of identity. And it's that I see certainly in me that my weaknesses and or like my idiosyncrasies are used by like the divine hands and by divine media and sort of are also my charism, like particular strength and virtue and skill that I'm good at. Although usually it does require some time of it just like not being a good thing. I mean, I guess a primary example is just my having been from pretty young so concentrated on my religion to the exclusion of everything else, really causing me a lot of misery and shutting me out from a lot of normal things, but that has definitely, like after a long time of sort of cycles, that bore so much fruit, and now I'm like reaping so many of the benefits of what before I was only reaping like negative aspects of it, but now that I found like the right way to be that way, it has become a good thing. But similarly, I guess, right, and I guess what I'm saying is if we don't, at least if I don't reject those things and be like, well, I don't want to be that way, and I'm just gonna like try to smooth out that element of me or just like push it away, well, that doesn't really work because that's who I am. But if I accept those things and go through it, and the only way through is through, like go through it all the way, then it becomes a really good thing for me and a healthy part and a strength. Anyway, a similar one to the like being in the religion box would be just having been so starkly isolated from any kind of like love or like human connection from as long as I can remember. And it's so funny because I used to have dreams sometimes, and in my dreams I would like feel empathy and like be able to sort of feel, what's going on in another person, pick up on their feelings a little bit. And I just thought that was like some superpower like that you get in dreams. And I was like, that weird thing that happens in dreams where you can like feel other people's feelings. It's like, nope. That's just life. But no, I think through that now, like I wouldn't change that now, because I think the way that I was finally given, or like I'm being given like love and connection is in a very pure way and not through like, I guess like toxic or unhealthy attachments that might sort of be partially good with just good enough to keep me, but then also bad and unhealthy, which I could have otherwise been caught in for a long time. But, or like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have to go through that journey of like sort of a halfway thing and then finding something that's pure, whereas for me it was just like stark, like all or nothing, which I prefer. Anyway, so I was able to be given love in like a pure form to know what it really is, by contrast with absolutely zero and barrenness. And then like I don't, I guess, take anything for granted, and what I do receive, I know how to use, sort of like having been like a little bug or something out in the desert which learns to use every bit of water that comes its way. And it'd be a little difficult adjusting to suddenly having like enough, but also you wouldn't, I don't know. I think because of this isolation, or I won't say because of it as if like bad things and suffering are inherently good, only that if they are in me, they will be used for good, right? But I really try not to like glorify suffering in and of itself. It's not necessary, but it's necessary for me because it's just I don't know, it's how I was born. So anyway, through the isolation, I guess like instead of, well, I didn't even know. Well, I don't know. Yeah, through that, I was given love in a pure way, and like from God first, and just like in a pure, and then not taking it for granted. Also, overthinking, just thinking so intensely and really not being able to drop anything. I guess that's a lot of it. I guess a lot of the pattern would be like of scarcity, and then of like just like holding on really tight, like not being able to drop anything. The negative aspect of that, of course, or like the way that I have to come through and learn, is to think about the right things, to drop things when it's just not the time to think about them, and yeah, just like to learn the way of thinking. The positive aspect of that, if I accept that as a part of my personality that I do think intensely, is I get answers. Because I keep persisting and asking and seeking and knocking, and I get my answers eventually. And instead of just sort of living in complacency, which is the dread of my life. Yeah, similar weakness or idiosyncrasy of mine is having a very low pain tolerance. This bothers me so much, and it's mostly like I have a low physical pain tolerance, and I have not found any virtuous aspect in that as yet. It's just annoying. But I think perhaps I could say that it goes along with my lower, like, internal or emotional pain tolerance, where if something is bothering me, I don't like it, and I'm gonna like keep poking at it until I could find a way to make it better. The negative aspect of that, of course, being that if it's necessary to wait, it's like learning to have the right timing, and like how to wait. But also, I can be fully healed because I won't just like be complacent and like stop caring, which is a really good thing. Rather than walking around with essentially low-grade inflammation for a long time. A similar vein, perfectionism, which of course can be such a curse because nothing's ever good enough, and always bothering over like tiny little details, and always constantly having like this judging little pattern going on, and just being super impatient and like bothered by every little thing. But if I learn to what to put my attention on when, and how to balance and modulate and like have the right intervals and timing for when to just like let it go for a while and when to like pick up, etc. If I learn the right way to be perfectionist, again, because I will not just like let go and be complacent, and because I will like give the attention that's necessary in order to fix whatever area is bothering me, I can basically have everything excellent and perfect. Of course, not perfect in a static way, but that simply doesn't exist. So yeah, perfectionism, I can't just try to be like, well, I'm just going to stop being a perfectionist, I'm just going to stop caring about, it sort of needs to be transformed from the inside into something that looks more like acceptance of things as they are, and slowly and inexorably making them better. but I can't just like shove aside as a whole that entire element of me. It's the way that I think, and it's used. And then, as I was talking about in the videos on like memory and resurrection, it was like always keeping diaries and always like going back over my past and trying to see how like it all fits in and needing everything to be coherent narrative and being really bothered ever since I was little by like loss or like death. Of course, these can be painful and negative things and hurtful to come through until I learned the proper way to integrate this. But on the positive side, this is a lot of the reason why I can fit in the Christian world and space, and like, I don't know, possibly why I was able to come to universal restoration quite easily. Oh yeah, and a lot of I guess why my theology got fixed so quickly was just my going so deeply into the broken theology that I had, and really my life became intolerable and unlivable. And because it was clearly causing me problems, I like had to fix it. So it wasn't like some abstract pondering, but because I was so like perfectionist and like so overthinking it and so over dedicated, like I had to fix it because it was urgent. Anyway, because of the same pattern which causes when it's out of place, like being really bothered by any kind of loss, or like, this is honestly not as much of an issue for me anymore. No. Okay. I guess where it is hard is like if there is a relationship, for instance, that is like, or like the people from the community and like the church I used to be part of, I still love them and I still remember them and I'm committed to that. I'm not just gonna like try to forget, or like I can't. But it's requires me to hold the memory of like the brokenness that is there for an indefinite amount of time until such time as it can be restored. But on the positive aspect, allows me to sort of rescue all of the threads of good that are in me and that are in my past, and to have a coherent and a good story which all events sort of can tie into and can have meaning and be given meaning in a very meaningful life, which I love having and I sort of need. But yeah, I guess the pattern being that through these wounds, but like idiosyncrasies, crosses, thorns in the flesh, weaknesses, or just things that are aspects that are extreme or out of balance that need to be rather difficult process of like putting those things in order and integrating them properly. But those are my strengths, and those are my strengths and bring me the most good. So again, the cross, through consenting to be fixed and to be, as in affixed, and to be humbled and to like give, sacrifice oneself and go all the way through this very narrow pathway, it opens up infinitely into life and into our full identity.